Today we're building the ultimate firebelly toad paludarium, complete with a custom waterfall, live plants, and a full mini ecosystem. Before we get into the build, I had to start fresh. So all the old Hardscape came out, I scrubbed the glass, and reset everything back to what I like to call a blank canvas. Before I started building, I wanted to really understand what firebelly toads actually need. And ironically enough, even though they're called toads, they're actually frogs. The bumpy skin throws people off, but scientifically speaking, they're not true toads. Just a little fun fact to serve you up with. But firebelly toads are native to northeastern China, Korea, and parts of southeastern Russia. They live in cool, shallow wetlands and rice paddies. That means they need a semi-aquatic setup, about 50% land and 50% water, with temperatures around 70 to 78 degrees, high humidity between 50 to 80%, and plenty of clean, moving water. They're often labeled as easy frogs to keep, but this is my first time with the species, so I'll let you know down the line if that claim holds true. Alright, let's talk about what I use for this setup. For the base structure, I use large and small rocks I field collected and cleaned thoroughly, some awesome tree branches I found out in the woods, an internal filter system, and a water pump that I'm going to be using for the waterfall. I also use my own custom plant substrate mix, which I'll explain more later in the video. I also want to give a huge shout out to my friends over at the Reptile Room for hooking me up with cork tubes, moss, burlap, and plants. They truly are the real MVPs, and if you ever get a chance to visit, be sure to do so. You can also check them out at tarantulacribs.com. Now, my favorite part, building out the hardscape. I started with the flat rocks to create my land area. These rocks were field collected, cleaned, and placed carefully along the bottom. Quick tip though, you should always put something soft between your rocks and the glass, like egg crate or foam, to prevent cracks or scratches. But I like to live dangerously, or maybe I was just too lazy to wait for shipping. Either way, don't be like me, protect your glass. Next up comes the branches. These were also field collected and cleaned, but fitting them was not easy. I had to cut them down multiple times, running back and forth to my saw like a madman gone crazy until I got the perfect fit. Now, with this being my first major build of this magnitude, I'm definitely learning things along the way. Those rocks I placed in first, I ended up having to pull them out because they were just completely in the way. My anxiety was a little high because I didn't want to crack the glass, but a quick prayer to the good Lord upstairs, lo and behold, we didn't crack the glass. My lesson learned here though was always start with your biggest, hardest to place pieces first, then build around them. Once the hardscape was done, I installed the water pump for the waterfall and my ZooMed 40-gallon internal turtle filter for water clarity. I tested different hose positions to see where the waterfall would look best, and when I finally turned it on, chef's kiss. It looked amazing. The sound of the running water just brings the whole setup to life.
Alright, these are the assortment of plants that we're going to be using. We have everything from golden cane palm we have pothos, we have, don't even know what this is, there's the pothos there. We have this cool plant here. We have a ton of plants. What we need to do is completely clean them out. So what I mean by that is we're going to pretty much take the roots out of the soil, and we're going to be creating a DIY pot that's going to then be placed inside the enclosure.
So essentially how this works is you'll take your burlap, you'll take your cleaned off plant with the exposed roots, you'll grab your bedding, pack the bedding on top of the roots, and you can be generous, and then create like a makeshift bowl for the plants to live in. What this does is creates a bowl within the enclosure with the burlap retaining moisture and creating enough pockets for great drainage. And I simply use zip ties to tie it all together. Now remember I told you I would tell you what's in my substrate mix? Well, here you go. I use 40% organic topsoil and cocoa fiber for nutrients, 30% sphagnum moss for moisture shoulder and root stability, 20% cypress mulch for aeration and structure, 10% sand and charcoal for drainage and toxin absorption. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really count the percentages, I just kind of mixed them together and took an eye. But if you do want to measure out each specific mix, there is definitely ways out there by using cups. Again, I'm just a guy who lives on the edge, and so yeah. Now, if I could redo anything, I would probably add aqua soil into the water section to support aquatic plants, but hey, hindsight's 2020. With the hardscape finished and my plants ready to go, it was time to start planting. I didn't think too deeply about plant placement, which in hindsight I probably should have, since different plants prefer different lighting, but surprisingly everything has been thriving, and truthfully it's been about a week or so now, so I guess I lucked out. For plants near the waterline, I use moss to help them retain moisture without being completely submerged. For the ones higher up, I attached burlap and moss to the branches and background using aquarium safe glue, then draped a bit of the burlap into the water to wick moisture up naturally. This trick actually comes from aquascapers who use shoelaces. I just swapped that out for burlap and it's worked perfectly so far. If you know of a better technique, drop it in the comments. I'm always down to learn and improve. And now, here it is. A living, breathing slice of nature, complete with flowing water, lush greenery, and the perfect blend of land and aquatic space. The waterfall cascades down the rock face into a shallow pool, surrounded by moss-covered branches and tropical foliage. The whole thing feels like a miniature rainforest tucked inside glass, a peaceful, self-sustaining ecosystem built from the ground up. Now, not everything went perfectly, and that's okay. After a few days, I noticed some mold growing on the plants. That usually happens when humidity is high and airflow is low. So I cut open a small tiny hole up the top of the canopy here and trimmed off the affected leaves, and I even added in a cleanup crew. Once they start doing their job and beneficial bacteria started to kick in, the mold disappeared on its own. Lastly, the tannins from the wood discoloring the water. Again, totally natural. A quick cartridge filter swap and a few days of patience clear things right up. I actually enjoy the brownish tannin look, as I feel like it provides a little bit of comfort for the animals. I mean, let's be real, in the wild they don't want to be seen because that could be a potential meal for something else bigger than it. Every paludarium has its adjustment phase. It's all a part of building a balanced ecosystem. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for. After weeks of allowing this paludarium to settle and to assure nothing inside this enclosure could harm our fire-bellied toads, the time had finally come. These little guys are incredibly active and full of personality. Watching them explore the land and water zones, that's the most rewarding part of the whole process. Seeing them thrive in something I built from scratch just makes it all worth it. So that's my build of the ultimate fire-bellied toad paludarium. If you enjoyed this video or got some inspiration for your own setup, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Drop a comment with what species you think I should build for next, and also don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future projects like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.